Good morning, Namaskar, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students, scholars, teachers, trainers, professors, professionals, official listener learners. I welcome all respected doctors and directors. I welcome honorable minister managers. I welcome adorable advocates, retired administrative advisors. I welcome the most honorable present Prime Minister Modi ji. Dr. Rakesh from USA, heartily cordially welcome. It is really nice time, nice place, nice section today that we are describing, explaining, expressing our holy Indian spiritual, social, cultural, educational, constitutional identities in the form of unity and diversity. प्रधानमंत्री आज तमिलनाडु के भाजपा कार्यकर्ताओं से करेंगे संवाद. आशा भोसले का आज राजकीय सम्मान के साथ होगा अंतिम संस्कार. प्रधानमंत्री आज नारी शक्ति बंधन सम्मेलन को करेंगे संबोधित. महिलाओं के प्रतिनिधित्व को बढ़ाने के महत्व पर दिया जाएगा जोर. अयोध्या से श्री राम लल्ला की आरती. Now let's go through 20th century literature. Henley, England, my England. What I have done for you, England, my England. What is there I would not do, England, my own. With your glorious eyes austere, as the world were walking near, whispering terrible things and dear, as the song on your bungles blown, England, round the world on your bungles down, round the world on your bungles blown. Henley, England, my England. 3 centuries ago, Robert Burton, then a famous writer, looked with troubled eyes on the enormous complexity of his age, saying, I have new books every day, whole catalog of volumes of all sorts, new paradoxes, opinions, heresies, controversies in philosophy and religion. Now come tidings of weddings, entertainments, jubilees, embassies, sports, plays. Then again, as in a new shaped scene, treasons, tricks, robberies, enormous villainies, deaths, funerals, discoveries, expeditions, now comical then tragical matters. Viewed from this time distance, the many writers who reflected this complexity, have sunk to the same featureless level, looming above them like crest of a mountain range. On the horizon, we see one high peak named Milton, two low peaks named Banyan and Dryden, and to left or right, a sunny or a gloomy hill named Brownie or Dunn or Lowlash or Howard or Ishaq Walton. And who will be the Milton or the Dryden of this present age with its hundreds of books where readers of Puritan and Cavalier times had but one, and its scores of ready poets, novelists, and playwrights to reflect its kaleidoscopic changes. To ask the question is to know that contemporary history cannot possibly be written. The best one can do is to wander clear eyed through its maze of literature, stopping here or there to point out a poem or play or novel that seems to be important because it is so near, and to say with Montaigne at the end of the survey, I have here gathered a poesy of I have here gathered a poesy of other men's flowers, and only the thread that binds them is mine own background of history. The long and progressive region of Queen Victoria came to a climax in the Diamond Jubilee year 1897, a time of peace and plenty when the British Empire seemed to be at the summit of its power and security. Of the discord that soon followed, we shall hear not only two factors which had large influence on contemporary English literature. The first disturbing factor was imperialism, the reawakening of a dominating spirit which had seemingly been put to sleep by the proclamation of an imperial federation. Its coming was heralded by the Boer War in South Africa, to which Britain blundered to what was hoped to be an era of peace and goodwill. Other nations promptly made such hope a vain whistling in the wind. Germany demanded her larger place in the sun and began warlike preparation for a future push to the east. France enlarged her huge empire in Africa and Indochina. Italy began a career of disaster by her first attack on Abyssinia. Japanese warlords, inflated by victory over Russia, began a career of conquest which aimed to make Japan master of Asia and the East Indies. Pacific islands that had for ages slept peacefully were turned into frowning naval stations. Five nations began to deceive China by seizing treaty ports and claiming special concessions in trade. Even the United States, aroused by an easy triumph in the Spanish War, started on an imperialistic adventure by taking control of the Philippines, thus making an impressible enemy of Japan, which had countless eyes on the same prize. Only a nation that enters on a dangerous course with eyes wide open has any chance of a safe way out. And the imperialistic nations were like blind, and and an inevitable result was the First World War and the greater horror of a Second World War. The two calamities being different acts of the same tragedy of imperialism, separated only by a breathing spell. Another factor that influenced literature for the world was a widespread demand for social reform of every kind, not slow and orderly reform, which is progress, but immediate and intemperate reform, which breeds a spirit of rebellion and despair. Before the Victorian age had come to an end, English literature appeared to have lost touch with healthy English life. Many writers, as if alternating between chills and fever, echoed the sorrowful cry of James Thomson in his City of Dreadful Night, or babbled of art for art's sake, with Oscar Wilde, Aubrey Beardsley, and other decadents in the Yellow Book. Groom, in his survey of the period, notes that writers had mostly a critical attitude towards morals and religion, church and state, as released from the dead hand of Puritan belief. Small wonder that German and Japanese warmongers regarded Englishmen as a decadent race when the same or worse opinion was daily read in the novels of Samuel Butler and nightly heard in the plays of Bernard Shaw. Suddenly came the First World War, and lo, in a time of trial, Englishmen were the same breed that ever they had been, with the same courage, the same ideals, the same faith in themselves and their country. Rupert Brooke, who had himself been among the decadents, voiced the return to health in two superb poems beginning, "Now God be thanked who hath matched us with this hour, and if I should die, if I should die, think only this of me, that there it says, that there is some corner of a foreign field that is forever England. Literary reactions. Imperialism had its outstanding advocate in Kipling, who with drama, who with drum and trumpet called upon England to take up the white man's burden by dominating all lesser breeds without the law. No other prominent writer of his day was ever quite so dominative. No other so cocksure that his was the only message worthy of attention. Social reform had its advocates by the score, not in censorious essays only, following the example of Carlyle, but also in fiction, in verse, and especially in drama. One unexpected literary feature of the age was the enthusiasm for stage plays that rolled like a tide over the whole English speaking world. In the Elizabethan age, still called the age of drama, London had five playhouses, and there was not another in the kingdom. Early in the present century, new stages appeared like mushrooms after a warm rain. Nearly every city had its provincial theatre as well as a number of regular playing houses, and there was hardly a town in England or America without its drama study group or a college without its drama workshop. Nearly all successful novelists wrote plays also, and most of them used the stage as an instrument of social reform. On the surface, at least, the contrast between Victorian and post-Victorian literature is rather startling. Tennyson and Kipling saw as excellent examples, since they were in turn acclaimed wherever English is spoken, one for his worldwide idealism, the other for his intolerance of everything outside the British play, the British pale. literary reactions. Imperialism had its outstanding advocate in Kipling, who with drum and trumpet called upon England to take up the white man's burden by dominating all lesser breeds without the law. No other prominent writer of his day was ever quite so dogmatic. No other so cocksure that his was the only message worthy of attention. Social reform had its advocates by the score, not in the censorious essays only. Following the example of Carlyle, but also in fiction, in verse, and especially in drama. One unexpected literary feature of the age was the enthusiasm for stage plays that rolled like a tide over the whole English speaking world. In the Elizabethan age, still called the age of drama, London had five playhouses, and there was not another in the kingdom. Early in the present century, new stages appeared like mushrooms after a warm rain. Nearly every city had its provincial theatre as well as a number of regular playhouses, and there was hardly a town in England or America without its drama study group or a college without its drama workshop. Nearly all successful novelists wrote plays also, and most of them used the stage as an instrument of social reform. On the surface, at least, the contrast between Victorian and post Victorian literature is rather startling. Tennyson and Kipling serve as excellent examples, since they were in turn acclaimed wherever English is spoken, one for his worldwide idealism and the other for his intolerance of everything outside the British pale. Dickens, the outstanding Victorian novelist, was a man of colossal optimism and hardy, most finished novelist of the age following was sunk in the deeps of pessimism. Poets of the Victorian age, as reflected in Stedman's Victorian Anthology 1899, leave a general impression of beauty, of faith, and therefore of cheerfulness. Houseman, finest of poetic craftsmen in the age following, sees life as a fool's errand to the grave and portrays himself as part of the procession on a spring morning. Yonder see the morning blink, the sun is up and up must I. To wash and dress and eat and drink, and look at things and talk and think, and work and God knows why. Rudyard Kipling, 1865 to 1936. Kipling's early and most impressionable years were spent in Bombay, India, where his parents were part of a tiny colony of the British born and bred. like an island in a foreign era, in a foreign sea. They were the Sahibs, the ruling race, to whom imperialism was a religion not to be questioned. To the crowded streets passed a motley multitude of natives of many different tribes and tongues, all with strange customs and beliefs. Around the city, as around every village, stretched the trackless jungle where men and beasts and creeping things were imagined to be swayed by brutality and terror. Other influences were at work in Kipling, but these for the glory of imperialism, the assumed superiority of the British, the darkly mysterious natives, and the imaginary law of the jungle dominated much the greater part of his literary work. मेरा बूथ सबसे मजबूत संवाद के तहत प्रधानमंत्री करेंगे संवाद। वरिष्ठ भाजपा नेता अमित शाह आज पश्चिम बंगाल में करेंगे चुनाव प्रचार। बीरभूम और पश्चिम वर्धमान में अंतिम अमित शाह करेंगे। आशा भोसले का आज राजकीय सम्मान के साथ होगा अंतिम संस्कार। मुंबई के शिवाजी पार्क में आशा भोसले का होगा अंतिम संस्कार। अमेरिकी राष्ट्रपति का स्टेट ऑफ हॉर्मूज की नाकाबंदी का ऐलान। प्रधानमंत्री आज नारी शक्ति वंदन सम्मेलन को करेंगे संबोधित। महिलाओं के प्रतिनिधित्व को बढ़ाने के महत्व पर दिया जाएगा जोर। प्रधानमंत्री आज तमिलनाडु के भाजपा कार्यकर्ताओं से करेंगे संवाद। मेरा बूथ सबसे मजबूत संवाद के तहत प्रधानमंत्री करेंगे संवाद। वरिष्ठ भाजपा नेता अमित शाह आज पश्चिम बंगाल में करेंगे चुनाव प्रचार। वीरभूम और पश्चिम वर्धमान में अमित शाह करेंगे चुनावी रैली। आशा भोसले का आज राजकीय सम्मान के साथ होगा अंतिम संस्कार। मुंबई के शिवाजी पार्क में आशा भोसले का होगा अंतिम संस्कार। अमेरिकी राष्ट्रपति का स्टेट ऑफ हॉर्मूज की नाकाबंदी का ऐलान। प्रधानमंत्री आज नारी शक्ति वंदन सम्मेलन को करेंगे संबोधित। महिलाओं के प्रतिनिधित्व को बढ़ाने के महत्व पर दिया जाएगा जोर। प्रधानमंत्री आज तमिलनाडु के भाजपा कार्यकर्ताओं से करेंगे संवाद। मेरा बूथ सबसे मजबूत संवाद के तहत प्रधानमंत्री करेंगे संवाद। वरिष्ठ भाजपा नेता अमित शाह आज पश्चिम बंगाल में करेंगे चुनाव प्रचार। बीरभूम और पश्चिमी वर्धमान में अमित शाह करेंगे चुनावी रैली। आशा भोसले का आज राजकीय सम्मान के साथ होगा अंतिम संस्कार। मुंबई के शिवाजी पार्क में आशा भोसले का होगा अंतिम संस्कार। अमेरिकी राष्ट्रपति का स्टेट ऑफ हॉर्मूज की नाकाबंदी का ऐलान। प्रधानमंत्री आज नारी शक्ति वंदन सम्मेलन को करेंगे संबोधित। महिलाओं के प्रतिनिधित्व को बढ़ाने के महत्व पर दिया जाएगा जोर। प्रधानमंत्री आज तमिलनाडु के भाजपा कार्यकर्ताओं से करेंगे संवाद। मेरा बूथ सबसे मजबूत के संवाद तहत प्रधानमंत्री करेंगे संवाद। वरिष्ठ भाजपा नेता अमित शाह आज पश्चिम बंगाल में करेंगे चुनाव प्रचार। As a boy, he was sent home to England. Rudyard Kipling was sent home to England, where he received a little formal education in what the English call a public school and what would here be called a private prep school. His experience and impressions were later recorded in Stalky and Company, a friendly book glorifying the crude jokes and mock heroism of young barbarians Returning to India, he became a reporter first for a local newspaper, then as a footloose observer at a frontier military post. No sooner had his verse and prose written for newspaper readers and reprinted as departmental details and plain tales from the hills made him known than he headed for London, bent on a literary career. Magazines bought his work, American magazines especially, and with the proceeds he toured the English speaking world with a reporter's eye for novelty and a genius for dramatizing every colorful place or event in swinging verse or up to the minute prose. Everywhere he was the journalist, the newspaper man, but it was soon apparent that he was also a very clever craftsman by his skillful use of words in presenting a vivid picture to the eye or creating an impression of wonder or fear in the mind. He became at 25 the best non living writer in the world. For a few years, he lived with his American wife in Vermont, where he scorned or criticized or quarreled with his neighbors in intervals of writing captains. Courageous, The Jungle Book, The Seven Seas, and many inventions, the remainder of his long life was spent in a quiet Sussex village, where he wrote voluminously but with decreasing effect. The vast audience he had won by the originality of his early work stood by him to the end, sadly recognizing that his storytelling had lost its novelty and was at best merely ingenious. In 1907, he received the Nobel Prize for Literature. Kipling's was there is in most of Kipling's was a ballad-like quality, that is, the impression of a story being told without loss of words. One of the best is his Ballad of East and West with its memorable lines. But there is neither east nor west, border nor breed nor birth, when two strong men stand face to face, though they come from the ends of the earth. प्रधानमंत्री आज नारी शक्ति बंधन सम्मेलन को करेंगे संबोधित। महिलाओं के प्रतिनिधित्व को बढ़ाने के महत्व पर दिया जाएगा जोर। प्रधानमंत्री आज तमिलनाडु के भाजपा कार्यकर्ताओं से करेंगे संवाद। मेरा बूथ सबसे मजबूत संवाद के तहत प्रधानमंत्री करेंगे संवाद। वरिष्ठ भाजपा नेता अमित शाह आज पश्चिम बंगाल में करेंगे चुनाव प्रचार। वीरभूम और पश्चिमी वर्धमान में अमित शाह करेंगे चुनावी रैली। आशा भोसले का आज राजकीय सम्मान के साथ होगा अंतिम संस्कार। मुंबई के शिवाजी पार्क में आशा भोसले का होगा अंतिम संस्कार। अमेरिकी राष्ट्रपति का स्टेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज की नाकाबंदी का ऐलान। प्रधानमंत्री आज नारी शक्ति बंधन सम्मेलन को करेंगे संबोधित। महिलाओं के प्रतिनिधित्व को बढ़ाने के महत्व पर दिया जाएगा जोर। प्रधानमंत्री आज तमिलनाडु के भाजपा कार्यकर्ताओं से करेंगे संवाद। मेरा बूथ सबसे मजबूत संवाद के तहत प्रधानमंत्री करेंगे संवाद। टू others of the same type are Gungadin and Fuzzy Wuzzy, which are written in exaggerated Cockney dialect and would be much better if written in unaffected English. Most commonly perfect is Danny Dever, beginning with a dirge-like measure and ending with a quick step played after a military execution. Of the ballads published in the departmental ditties, the obvious thing to be said is that they should all have gone to the bonfire. Barakroom balance is a little better in sports, but the sports are far between. Notable among them in Mantley, which has now the queer effect of making us realize how quickly times have changed and the imperialistic empire with them. When this Mantley was unexpectedly revived during the Japanese conquest of Burma 1943, one seemed to be reading of old, unhappy, far off things that could never be the same. I thank all brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students, scholars, teachers, trainers, professor, professional, officer, official, listener, learner. I thank all respected doctor directors. I thank all honorable minister manager. I thank all admirable advocates and higher administrative advisor. I thank the most honorable President Mr. Modi ji. It is really great time that we are getting the appearance of our present rulers in the form of unity in diversity. Thank you very much. बीरभूम और पश्चिम बर्धमान में अमित शाह करेंगे चुनावी रैली। आशा भोसले का आज राजकीय सम्मान के साथ होगा अंतिम संस्कार। मुंबई के शिवाजी पार्क में आशा भोसले का होगा अंतिम संस्कार। अमेरिकी राष्ट्रपति का स्टेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज की नाकाबंदी का ऐलान। प्रधानमंत्री आज नारी शक्ति वंदन सम्मेलन को करेंगे संबोधित। महिलाओं के प्रतिनिधित्व को बढ़ाने के महत्व पर दिया जाएगा जोर। प्रधानमंत्री आज तमिलनाडु के भाजपा कार्यकर्ताओं से करेंगे संवाद। धन्यवाद।